Hi there, Chris from TotallyEV, and here I'm doing a dedicated audio review of the Kia EV3. If you want a detailed review of the vehicle itself, make sure you check it up on your pub banner or by following the links down in the description below or the pinned comments. Now to kick things off, we have to talk about its audio configuration. And here in the entry-level Air and the GT line models, you have got a 6-speaker configuration. To be more specific, you've got tweeters within the mirror triangles and then audio drivers which are positioned within each of the 4 doors. If, however, you go for the GT Line S model, you have an 8-speaker Harman Kardon configuration, and it's presumed to have a power output of 320 watts, and this is just me basing it on the other Kia models that Harman Kardon also supplies. Although if I do get any confirmation from the manufacturer, I'll make sure I'll pop it down in the description below or as a note within the video. Now here you have got an additional center driver and also a subwoofer that's side mounted in the boot. Now for those with an eagle eye, you might have noticed that within the dashboard there are 2 cutouts, and therefore you might expect 2 audio drivers positioned in it and therefore taking the tally up to 9. However, that's not quite the case because upon further inspection I could only see 1 audio driver. So I'm not really sure if 1 audio driver has been removed or that the secondary cutout is used for other purposes, for example for calls or other. Now with that in mind, we're going to be looking at the Harman Kardon audio system and seeing if it's actually worth its price tag, in other words going for the GT Line S over the stock configuration. Now for you to tinker around with the audio drivers, you want to go on the infotainment system, and here there is a treble, mid-range and bass adjustment. I've added 1 notch to treble, 1 notch to mid-range and taken 1 notch off bass. I've also left the speed dependent volume in terms of its default level and also left the balance at the center position as well. Of course, these are my own subjective settings, but of course here this is done for a certain reason, which I'll be explaining further down in this video. Now for you to connect up to the infotainment system, you have got Bluetooth. Here, the SBC and AAC codecs are supported only, so therefore you'll probably want to use it sparingly, specifically given the fact that the EV3 has got support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, both over a wired and wireless transmission, so therefore something that you might want to utilize in order to benefit from higher quality audio playback. Moving swiftly on, let's talk about cabin noise, and here the objective measurements will be on your screen. For those people who are subscribed, you'll know that the measurements aren't exactly the best nor are they the worst. Subjectively, I'll also agree with them to say that while driving on the motorway, you can hear a little bit of road noise creeping in, while at lower speeds it does a decent job. It is worth considering, however, that this vehicle was fitted with the 19-inch alloys, which come as standard in the higher spec trims, such as the GT Line and the GT Line S. However, the Air model has got the smaller 17-inch alloys, which is something that you might want to consider in order to get better rolling noise. And in fact, you can even spec the 17-inch alloys in the GT Line models, and this will cost you an additional extra. So therefore, something worth considering if you do want to prioritize the overall driving comfort and also the overall road noise that you're going to get within the cabin. Now with all that said and done, let's get on to an audio demo. I'll be placing the camera and microphone in 4 separate locations and playing back a track. It's from Priya J and it's titled Like Me. Now, appreciating an audio demo over YouTube is not quite ideal, but I thought to provide it as it gives you a bit of a taster as to what to expect. Subjectively, what I'll say is that it does a decent job across the sound frequency range, although it has certain weaknesses. Now let me break it down for you. First off, in terms of the sub-bass tones, in other words, that low-end rumble that you'll come to expect in more bass-orientated tracks, it's certainly there. And this is thanks to the fact that you have got a dedicated side-mounted subwoofer in the boot, at least within the Harman Kardon audio system. And this is going to be the biggest notable upgrade over the stock 6-speaker system within the EV3. Indeed, over here, as it emits a subwoofer altogether, if you want a little bit of that extra low-end oomph, you might want to consider this GT Line S model for that reason alone. Now, it's not to say that the subwoofer is very much the best out there in the market, because more expensive alternatives out there will provide you even lower-end extension, and some of its key competitors also do a little bit of better job in this department. Nonetheless, in terms of the overall mid-bass impact, in other words, that low-end slam that you'll be able to hear, well, it's certainly there. In fact, it's quite hearty for my liking, and that's coming from someone who likes listening to a lot of R&B, D&B, and EDM tracks. And as a result, I actually had to take one notch off the bass EQ via the infotainment system. Here, the audio drivers that are positioned within each of the 4 doors do a pretty good job of giving you that different amount of dynamism. However, the overall caveat is that the mids are quite pushed back, and this means that both male and female vocals don't come up to the foreground. Now, you might be quick to say, why did you only add one notch to the mid-range EQ? And the simple answer is because adding more than that takes away from the overall accuracy, and as a result gives you a bit of a veiled sound, and it sounds a little bit artificial. As a result, I just had to accept that it has got a V-shaped sound signature, and that the overall mid-range isn't exactly the system's forte. Now, as for the highs, at the front of the cabin, they do extend relatively well. This is due to the fact that you've got dedicated tweeters that are found within the mirror triangles. However, the same can't be quite said at the rear of the cabin because you haven't got that toe tapping feeling due to the omission of any sort of tweeters, which is quite disappointing. In fact, for those who are sat at the front of the cabin, it will also impact it because you don't have that extra bit of fulfillment that is coming from the rear. Now, this actually does bring me onto its soundstage, and here the overall width and depth does feel a little bit closed. It doesn't exactly give you that sort of real engagement sort of sound. And don't get me wrong, the audio drivers that are positioned within the cabin do a decent job, specifically within the Harman Kardon audio system where you've got that center audio driver. However, in comparison to more premium alternatives out there, or even some of its like-for-like competitors, it doesn't quite stand a chance. Ultimately, what I'm trying to say over here is the Harman Kardon audio system within the EV3 is certainly worth considering if you're a little bit more of an audiophile or you just like listening to music and you're considering this vehicle only. As a result of this, it gets an Audio Approved award. It's certainly a worthwhile upgrade over this 6-speaker audio system. However, it is worth considering that in comparison to some of its competitors, including what some will say is its predecessor, the Kia EV, it doesn't really stand a chance. Now, I'd be curious to know what you make of the audio system of the Kia EV3 down in the comment section below, and if you would pick the GT Line S purely for the Harman Kardon audio configuration over the stock 6-speaker setup. Now, if you have enjoyed this detailed independent review, definitely do consider dropping a like, subscribing and hitting that bell notification, all of which would be greatly appreciated. As such, I've been Chris from TotallyEV, and I hopefully see you next one. Take care of yourselves, and goodbye.